Hey, welcome back to Friends in Austin. Today I have Peter Haubrich on the podcast. Is that pronounced correctly?
Yeah, actually, that's the first time somebody actually got it right. And people usually say Haubrich.
Okay, yeah, Haubrich, yeah. So, yeah, and I would say keep the mic a little closer to you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Get in right in there.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone always grabs the mic, though, and I'm like, don't grab the mic, grab the boom. Like, use this. Yeah.
Fair enough.
I just got these new, I forget what they're called, but.
Oh, yeah, they're like little harness.
Yeah, like the other ones are different. These are nicer, but. Yeah, because the other ones weren't staying, so.
You get a nice setup, man.
Yeah,
this is a good spot. I like this table and everything.
Appreciate it. So, You've got a YouTube channel. Tell me what it's called and tell me why you're doing it.
Yeah, so it's called Overpowered Mind, and I came up with the idea for this because, I work at a company that's very self-development focused. I'm hanging around YouTubers all day, and I'm listening to these guys. I'm like, man, this is a message that needs to get out there because there's so many people right now that are struggling to figure out what the hell they're doing with their life.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know they don't know what to do. And so I think you see this sometimes in.
I'm going to stop you there and say, I'm glad you're talking about that. That's actually something that I'm very passionate about. And I think that a lot of people struggle with. I think it's a big problem with our generation.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's their fault. It's just kind of like the way that society is. I've talked about this with my friend Derek on a previous podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Where career paths, and it's like, what do you do with your life and why? And finding meaning.
Yeah. And I was just listening to, rereading Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning, which is insane. Have you read that?
No, I haven't. I've heard of it. I should read that.
It's basically like he's one of the guys who survived the concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and he was a psychiatrist, and he goes through the different stages of when you get in there and you have all this hope, and then you kind of like go through apathy. You go through these different stages of realization, and it almost like makes it very, I wouldn't say dumbed down, but more like animalistic, where you're just very hyper-focused on what you need to survive. And so the lesson that he had from that was that some people would go there and they would just give up. They would give up everything to the environment. So they'd become one of the capos, which would be like, the Jews that were basically, rounding up the other Jews and becoming basically Nazis themselves. Mm-hmm. And so really messed up stuff, basically. And so the few people that he noticed, he said, the best of us didn't make it through, because the few people that made the choice to keep their dignity, right, to keep their like kind of moral standard and just not give in to the environment, that was basically the one meaningful thing that they could do. Was like, without having that, you didn't really have a choice of anything. So it's like choosing your attitude, right? So the people that choose their attitude and decided that they were going to basically make the most of it, even though it was certain death. Like, it was basically a 90% chance you're going to die.
Yeah.
And, the minute that you weren't capable of work, of helping them build things, like, you were to the chambers, right?
Yeah, they don't need you at
so
all.
he had a very pure way of looking at this from like a psychiatrist perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty enlightening to kind of read through that. And it's like, there's more like gruesome, terrifying stories than that, but that one's very focused on, the meaning and the fact that it sold a lot.
How big of a book is it, by the way?
It's very short.
Okay,
it's like 4 hours of an audiobook. Very short.
I love short books that are very engaging.
Yes. Yeah, because it's accessible, because like I think there's so much information out there. Like, I love Jordan Peterson, I love Rogan, I love like so many of these guys are just amazing.
I have Jordan Peterson's book.
Yeah, it's a great book. Mm-hmm. But some people listen to like even Jordan Peterson, which I think is pretty easy to understand. Some people even listen to him, they're like, they don't get it. They don't understand. It's like too heady, it's too intellectual. And the thing I like about a book like that is that anybody could pick that up and read it and like really get an immediate takeaway from it.
Yeah.
In there.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't finish it. I probably read a third of it, but
sure.
It is interesting. Sometimes I drop books. I'll pick them up for a while.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah, no, I did too. I mean, like, I just listen to his videos and stuff all the time.
And I've listened to a lot of his
podcasts.
Videos, yeah.
And so like, I feel like that was more digestible. His book did go a little heady, right? It went pretty deep in there, but it was really good.
Yeah. And I didn't think it was necessarily too heady. It's just like, I don't know. Sometimes I just kind of feel like reading and other times I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, makes sense.
So sorry, we took a little break and had to check some things to get a new drink, but we were talking about Jordan Peterson. I want to ask you a quick question about, I don't want to cut off a train of thought if you're on one, but I want to ask about, like, you're around these YouTube creators. That's really cool. So what are you doing for work where you're around YouTube creators? And are they're doing okay on their channel? There's people that are making money and stuff?
But yeah, about 250,000 subscribers, roughly.
Do you know what that translates to in money? Off the top, probably not off the top of your head, but
well,
I'm curious.
there's a few of them, and we do about 10 million a year.
10 million a year in money? In revenue?
Real monies.
250,000 subscribers and they're making $10 million?
Yep.
Jesus Christ,
but, you know, yeah.
But that can't just be off YouTube views, right? Because YouTube pays like
not on the
shit.
views. No. So it's
advertising.
It's coaching programs primarily.
Okay.
So it's a lot of it is other people who want to figure out how to do YouTube.
Yeah.
It's people who want to become more charismatic, or they want to figure out how to interview better, and so they'll go through like an 8-week program with us, and we'll figure out how to just kind of get them out of their shell. So it's you could think of it kind of like charisma coaching or something like that.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what the company does that you work for.
Yep.
And then you also are then inspired to make a channel.
Yeah.
So
it's and I'm like the sales manager basically, like for the company.
That's
so
your background's in sales.
Yeah. Well, originally audiovisual. So I did audiovisual for 5 years with all the mics and stuff. I did live sound for bands. Went to school for it. I worked with Ken Burns.
Who's Ken Burns?
Documentary filmmaker.
He's a relatively well-known documentary filmmaker.
He does all those like long PBS documentaries for like history, jazz, and baseball, the 10th inning, all this stuff.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So now, I'm excited about the psychology of sales, and I like, having a team and building things. So we basically took the team from like being like 3 people and grown it to be like a 20-person team, and like totally expanded the company. So it's been pretty exciting for me.
Nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah.
So tell me more about your channel, though. Your channel is based around people finding purpose in their lives.
Yes.
And how does that tie into you eliminating things?
So it starts with baseline. So you have to first, before you can, kind of go and, it's kind of like what Jordan Peterson says, like you got to make your bed first, right? You got to you clean your room. So this is the equivalent for me of like cleaning my room. It's like figuring out how to get my body in order, how to get, just everything that I can dialed in, so that I can then kind of make time and allow time for things that I care about.
Is that why you didn't accept a drink offering?
Today. Well, it's the gluten. Yeah. It's for me, it's like for the beer, it's the gluten. I did Whole30. I'm on Whole30 right now.
I did the Whole30.
You did? Okay,
yeah.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on it for the 3rd time this year right now with my girlfriend. So we got like 20 days left.
Nice.
And so, I lost like 20 pounds.
Congrats, man.
So I felt really good. Yeah.
I would have no idea that you ever weighed 20 more pounds than what you do right now.
I was a little bigger. Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I was like 170 or something. But yeah, basically I'm doing that again because, I'm just slowly chipping away at kind of getting things ingrained, making sure I cook all the time. So, it's just those little 1% trying to get.
Is that a little bit of that maybe come from, in case you get COVID, just protecting your immune system, or is that just unrelated?
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
Mm-hmm.
I just listened to somebody talk about getting COVID, and they're my age, and they're like, yeah, it was like a minor cold. Yeah, I mean, maybe it affects people differently, right? But
everyone that I know that has gotten it has brushed it off with ease.
Sure.
And you hear those horror stories, but half of them I feel like if you click on the article, then you read the whole thing, like they just tell you the smallest little snippet of information.
It's
but by the way, they had like this terminal illness, but like the headline says like, oh, a healthy young person dies from COVID.
Yes.
I'm sure it maybe has happened, but if you just statistics,
Yeah, my buddy's a doctor, and he's really, we hung out in Breckenridge for a weekend, and he's wearing a mask the whole time, just without fail. And, I respect that. I think we decided there's about a 1 in 100 chance that, he would have actually gotten it. And if he did, it probably wouldn't have been a big deal.
It would be less than a 1 in 100 chance of him dying, even after the 1 in 100 chance of him getting
exactly.
it. Yeah.
So but still, I think there's part of it's the hysteria, and I noticed this right when it started to happen, was that there's just hysteria around it. And anytime somebody's hysterical, you got to like take a minute to like, take understanding of your surroundings and figure out what does this really mean, right? Because like, let's say if you have you're at a party or something and somebody's just being hysterical, it's like, okay, well, what actually happened? Let's calm them down and let's get the facts. And right now I feel like people are still in hysteria and they haven't got, we don't know the facts just yet. Things are still, getting figured out. So yeah, I've just been kind of keeping low and, not going too crazy out and doing anything, but at the same time, not like, totally putting my life on pause because I don't hang around with a lot of people that would be compromised by that.
Exactly. And I have the same philosophy. It's like, I'm saying I don't think it's that scary and all that stuff, but like I don't do anything crazy stupid, I mean, it'd be hard to even because your options for doing things that are crazy stupid are pretty limited. Mm-hmm. But I hang out with, we call them quaranteams. My friend Jeremy turned me onto that expression or whatever you want to call it. So you just kind of like, you got your team of people that you hang with, and those are the people you hang with on the regular. Mm-hmm. I'll go out to eat very rarely. I've been out to eat, I would say 3 times since COVID started.
Sure.
And only one time was it indoor seating, so I mean, I'm pretty comfortable sitting outside.
Yeah, you gotta be careful. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of places that are that are allowing you to kind of bunch up anyways, so they're taking enough precautions where I feel okay about it. My main concern is just like if I was hanging around with somebody who this really could affect, I think, seriously, like somebody who could be like immunocompromised or just somebody who's really old.
Absolutely. Like if I live with my parents or something. I visited my parents or my mom in April when very little was known about COVID and all that stuff. I was pretty scared because I was afraid that like I would get them sick, but I wanted to hang out with them for like a couple of weeks since we were working from home. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was a good time to see family, and they're in Indiana, so I went and did that. And I'm glad I did, but I'm not going to lie. That was early. I was like using a glove to pump my gas. Like I was pissing in a jug in my car on the way to Indiana because I drove the whole way there because I didn't want to show up and then them get sick,
Makes sense.
But since then, like we've seen each other, went on a family vacay. It's like a little more chill. But a place I'll recommend is Jacoby's on Cesar Chavez in Austin. If you want to go eat, they have a nice outdoor seating area. It's kind of expensive, but it's not too bad. Been. Really nice little patio. Good drinks, good food.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'll check it out. There's a lot of places on my list, but
keep those local businesses open. Keep them open, man.
Yeah.
Like so they don't go out of business.
Yeah, there's been a few that have taken the hit.
There's a Cider Gate that opened up. So there's this company called Cider Gate out of Dallas. They have a location where they have ciders, and then they have beer and everything else too. But it's an arcade, and I think you purchase like just like an entry fee, then you can play unlimited. The Joe's Crab Shack that's on East Riverside, that is not far from like Thomas Market and Soco on the Lake where I used to live, and Watermark. The Cider Gate bought that location and they opened 2 weeks ago. So you can go there. I haven't been there, but if anybody's into arcade, that's a cool place in Austin to check out.
Sick. Yeah, I'm going to check it out. What I'm really excited about is like going and doing like blazer tag or something like that with some friends once this little thing blows over. I haven't done that in a while.
Nice. Yeah, dude, I haven't played laser tag. Is Blazer Tag's just the company name, right?
I think so.
Yeah. I've seen.
I haven't been there.
Yeah.
But I want to check it out.
Yeah, I haven't played laser tag in forever.
I just got this. I have an Oculus Quest, and I just got this game for it that they used to have with the older one with the cord, and now they don't have the cord. So basically, it's this like bow game, and there's these cubes, and these cubes are have a timer. They turn colors, and they have a sound, and it's this 360-degree thing. You're in this like dojo. And the cube will shoot a projectile at you if you don't, if you hit it with your arrow, or if you don't. And so basically you're like shooting and dodging and shooting and dodging. So it's like a proper workout. Like you're like spinning around. You feel like a ninja and you're getting a workout. So that's like my favorite thing. It just came out today. I was playing a little bit.
That just came out today?
Yeah, that game.
That game, yeah, dude. I've heard about the Quest, and I heard that like everyone loves the Quest. They're like it's better because they say it's more. You're less entangled. Did you use the previous ones?
Yeah, I had the Vive. I went to one of the showings. I've like always been a video game nerd. So like my challenge has always been to like make time for it away from the things that are important, And so I feel like that's been going pretty well. But still I get just so stoked about some of these things. And so I went to one of these showings in 2016 with the Vive, the first really one that came out. And my buddy, my roommate, came to check it out because I just had like a bunch of machines in a room. You could just test it out for free. And he's like, dude, I'm getting one. And so I had my computer and we hooked it up and they had this game and man, yeah, you can just like, you can go crazy on that thing. Like you could even get a huge room and like go full immersive. Like they get the Half-Life thing where you can plug in your computer via the cord and stuff like that. So it's my favorite one because I think the biggest limitation was the cords. The cord, I would trade tons of fidelity and stuff just to get uncorded.
Yeah,
so it's way better.
And that's what people are saying. I want to try it. I like video games a lot, but for some reason over the past like year or two, I just kind of like not into any of them anymore. Mm-hmm. And I always tell people like, I feel like I need something like a good VR to totally like actually care about it again.
Well, I don't even play it that. So the thing about VR is that it's kind of a thing. And so the main way that I use it right now is just for like a little bit of cardio here and there. So I'll play Beat Saber, you know, and do the music stuff and, you know, and dance around. And that's pretty much the main thing I use it for.
Dude, that's awesome. The fact that, and that's one reason why VR is going to blow up. Like it's taken a lot longer than people thought. And a lot of like venture capital firms have put a lot of money into a lot of VR. And, you know, it's like they make fun of it on Silicon Valley, the show. Like it's like one of those things that people are dumping money into and it's just still not that good. But I heard Quest is pretty good. And that's a whole nother level of video game to where like you can actually get a cardio workout doing it. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, it's really cool. The only thing that really I haven't liked that's happened recently is, you know, so Facebook owns Oculus, and so, or they bought out Oculus.
Yeah, they bought them.
And so basically, they're looking at rebranding it so that you have to have a Facebook account to log in now. So you can't have just your Oculus thing. So the scary thing for me about that is that they're also coming out with this Facebook Connect thing within the Quest. So there's going to be like, right now we think about Facebook like you're on a website or you're on your phone, and that's Facebook. But I guarantee you there's going to be a generation of people who are going to be wearing this thing and they're going to be like interacting and talking with their friends through this. It's going to be kind of like the, you know, Ready Player One, that movie.
You'll be playing a game and you can answer a call and pause it and be like, hey, what's up? Like, do you want to do a co-op?
And yeah, and it's going to be connected to your freaking credit card, and you're just going to be.
It's going to be connected to mom's credit card.
Yeah, okay. Well, initially, yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Exactly.
I'm just kidding. Yeah.
So it's kind of scary that that's kind of getting merged, you know, because there's definitely some like privacy concerns. Like I've always liked the idea of like video games being kind of separate than all the social media stuff, but I think that's going to slowly kind of merge together.
It is going to merge, and I mean, it makes sense. It has benefit from a user perspective. Like if I want it to be easy to play with my friends and also even maybe connect with other gamers in my area because that's a shared interest, gaming, you know, and then a lot of people get a lot of social value out of that. I mean, some people, their friends are the people they play games with online, and some of them they met online. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's cool. That's a cool aspect, like a community aspect of video gaming. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how I necessarily feel about privacy. Sometimes I just want to like throw in the towel and be like, nothing's private. This is over. Nothing has been private for a while.
It's a weird thing, right? I was looking up because I started like basically learning that, you know, and this took me a while. I don't know how it took me so long, but basically learning that like, okay, your phone is like listening to you and it's going to give you an ad like based on what the microphone picks up. So if you say a keyword, then you can look at your phone the next 2 days. You'll probably see an ad for it. If it's relevant. So basically I'm thinking about this. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather that wasn't happening, but then you have to do the cross benefit analysis of all the benefits that you get. Like I have, you know, the, you know, Google voice, you know, texting and everything in my car. And so if I turn it off where it's not listening to me anymore, now I can't use any of the, you know, voice commands or anything. So now it's like, man, I don't know how bad it is to just give up some of your privacy. They have all these OSs and stuff for, you know, like Android, you know, OSs that people are building. But I'm just thinking about the convenience factor that you're probably losing with that. And it's like almost unlivable to think about, like it's unfeasible to think about at this day and age, not having all those things now that I'm used to it.
Yeah, I agree with you on that point. And that's where I'm like, I don't know, is it a war worth fighting? Like as long as, I mean, one of my biggest annoyances is how much trash I get in the mail, you know, like, you know, I mean, like that annoys me more than someone using my interest to better market to me. You know, it's like, I'd rather people stop sending me trash. And like, if you're going to advertise to me,
it's like a big problem. I don't know why they keep doing it. That doesn't work. Why do people think that works?
Dude, it must. I mean,
I think it's with older people mainly because they're used to they like getting mail.
It's obscene. I feel like that's one of the biggest problems, like some low hanging fruit. Like I wish someone would solve that problem. Look, like, people care more about the environment these days. Do you know how much trash that the mailman, over half of what a mailman does is deliver trash to your mailbox for you to then throw away and maybe not even recycle. Like, you know what I mean? Like, like It just needs to stop happening. We need to have better.
We're paying
rights.
a lot of money for that to happen.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
Yeah, there's like half of there's like twice the size of Texas. There's this big garbage patch in the what is it? Which ocean is it? It's the Pacific? Yeah. So yeah, probably we don't need to add to that. I think it's mostly plastic, but still.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how I feel about privacy. I mean, I noticed, like, I got a notification where they were like, hey, like review the data that we have on you, which I thought was odd. I was like, okay, you're openly presenting to me what you have on me. And they showed all the locations I'd been to and all this stuff. But like, in a way, I kind of thought it was cool. I was like, it showed all these bars and restaurants I'd been to in Austin. And one thing that went through my head when I saw that, this is weird. I was like, you know, if I was a kid, it'd be really cool for me to see what my dad did and when. And I could be like, my dad was at this place at this. I don't even have kids, so this is such a weird thought. But
yeah, it's really cool for you until the government gets a hold of it.
But the thing is, what are they going to do with it? You know what I mean? Like, why would they want to fuck with me? Don't they have better things to do? Plus, that the government has limited time and resources, which they need to spend on things that actually matter. I mean, and until they can. I just don't see a future where they're blackmailing me or anything like that.
Yeah, I think the main concern comes from like, you know, his history of tyrannical governments, right? So like this is very, very real thing. And so just because, you know, we haven't had a war in a while doesn't mean that a government can turn tyrannical. So it's basically, you know, it's just that like, even if it's a 5% chance that could happen, I think that's where all the fear comes from, right? It's like, okay, well, like for China, for example, like, you know, the reason they don't want to have, Trump doesn't want to have TikTok and everything over here is because they're like legit like censoring certain topics and shit, you know?
I totally agree with us. Like China blocks us from selling our products and services there. Why the fuck would we let them? To me, it's just like Q pro quo. It's like, why would we let you compete in our market while you're not letting us compete in your market? Like you need to have repercussions for that. And I don't think that's a right or left issue. I think that's just common sense. It's like, why, you know, why let you make all the money? We could have a US company that have the same service, you know, you won't let us do this over there. What do you think about that? Do you think that we should be letting them put TikTok here when they're not letting us put Facebook there?
Yeah, no, yeah, exactly. I think it's, for me, it's literally less about that. And it's more about because I think that the main issue is the influence from the Chinese government, right? Like the influence that they have over the information that's put into our citizens, you know, phones. And
right? and them strong arming the NBA and shit like that. Like, have you heard about that?
No, I actually haven't.
I don't know the details about that. I wish I did, but they've strong armed certain NBA teams into doing certain things and not speaking out about certain things because they have ownership in some of that stuff. And like anybody that look it up for more details, it's not bullshit. Like they've got their hand in too much of what we got going on here.
Yeah, I just watched a documentary. It's like a 3-part documentary on China, and it's like all about the 20th century. It's like called China in Revolution, and it's like the Maoists, like from where they started, like fighting the communists versus the nationalists, and then coming into like the Mao years, and then the like revolutions that happened even after the initial communist revolution. And it is some of the most interesting shit that I've ever listened to. Like it's insane. But it's also one of the scariest things I've ever listened to. Like when they were doing demonstrations, you know, like there's just like, you know, the problem with communism is you have to give people so much power in order to enforce the outcomes that everybody wants that you end up at a certain place where you've ceded too much power, you know? And so this is where kind of a similar place that we're at right now, I think, in the country, where there's just this huge question mark on where is all the power. And so it's all this, like these power games. And I actually wish that we weren't, it's nice to say this, but like, I really wish we weren't looking at the world through a lens of power, because I feel like tying back to why I'm doing what I'm doing, this is the reason. Like there's 2 ways to look at the world. You're either going to take responsibility for your life and where it's at and what the hell you want to do with it. And almost to a you know, like a degree of unreasonableness, you know? So for instance, like somebody somebody punches you in the face. That's my fault. Why? Because you can't really do anything else about that. So you might as well figure out what you could have done better. Like, cause it's an opportunity for growth, right?
Somebody punches you in the face. You're saying it's your fault you got punched in the face. So it's an opportunity for growth. Yes, you probably did something, or at least were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Maybe.
People don't usually run up to random people and punch them in the face.
Exactly. But like, maybe I wasn't paying attention and this guy next to the subway, I don't know. Yeah. But the point is like, that's more of a joke than anything. But basically, if you're looking through the lens, the world in that lens, then what happens is you start to take care of things. Mm-hmm. First in your life, and then you extrapolate that out. And what we see, and the other way to look at things is, well, things are not my fault. It's somebody else's fault, right?
And that is a fucking terrible way to look at it. And I totally agree with what you're saying, is people don't take enough responsibility. I mean, you everything that you are experiencing right now, for the most part, is like a consequence of past decisions that you make. Like sometimes family members get sick and die and stuff like that. That's not your fault. You can't control that. But how you look at it, how you deal with it, the situations you put yourself in, all the decisions you make, you need to really be like your own critic, but not to a point where like you're depressed about it. It's just like, be realistic with yourself. Be realistic with yourself.
Yeah. You have to kind of weigh like, okay, well, there's some things I'm doing really, really good here that I should really give myself credit for. And then, these things aren't as well. You have to be doing as well. You gotta have some sort of, balance there where you're objective about it, right? Because most people, they're either beating themselves up, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And they're probably doing really well. Like you have certain guys that are, doing really well in their life. Like, even a lot of like software engineers, they do really well in one area of their life. And then the other areas, they're not where they want to be. Like maybe say if somebody's a programmer and they're like super, super logical, they're super, super smart in that area, but they don't give themselves enough credit. And so then out in a social situation, they don't know what to do. And so now that they're starting to beat themselves up about it when they already have plenty of accomplishments that are very very awesome, but they just don't know how to express that and market that to the rest of the world. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
And so, so you can kind of go on either end of the spectrum with that. And then you got the, the narcissists who are just going to tell themselves that they're the best at everything. Right. Which I think, there's a spectrum where people will fall into that if they're not careful. If you give yourself too much positive reinforcement, you'll get on the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, you need to find a middle ground to where you're objectively criticizing yourself, but not in a way that it's dragging you down and making you less productive and able to improve.
I think part of that is willing to be wrong. Like not thinking that you're right all the time. Like when you go into something like legit, like see if you could be proven wrong, like with an open mind, right? And that I feel like that's like a concept that we used to have more or less in with a lot of people that I knew, but like over time, it kind of people get into their little chasm of beliefs, mm-hmm. and they don't want to break out of it. It's like they don't want to break out of that comfort zone of knowing, and that's something that's very important, I think, for just the country as a whole, but just individually being able to take advantage of looking at like taking responsibility for life, and what that does is it expands your sphere of influence, right? So you have more influence the more responsibility you take, because now you can control. It sounds a little fucked up, but you have more control over your life, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So like people who are the victim, they don't have any control over their life. They're blaming somebody else. They've ceded all the quote unquote power that they're saying isn't their fault, right?
To their environment and everything else that just happens to them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you're like, hey, I take responsibility for this. I take responsibility for getting punched in the face. That's my fault. I should have done better. Like with that mentality, what it breeds in you is like a can-do attitude. It's like, I have to do better. I will do better. And that like root is what creates action, right? It creates like that root in your mind, that one thought starts to create everything around you. And so that's why I'm so passionate about helping people and talking about responsibility, and also like, changing your life into a better direction, taking on growth, is because most people don't think it's possible. And like, I didn't either. Like when I got into this stuff in the beginning, like I basically was like, I'm just going to be the person that I am. There's nothing I can do to change that. So that means I can't be, successful with work. I can't be good with girls. I can't be, any of these things. And, when you start to unravel your thought processes and your mind and where you're going and why it's been going this way, then you say, oh, well, maybe I could just change this little thing and this little thing and change my influences and the people that I'm spending time with. Maybe I shouldn't be hanging out with the guy who's my neighbor downstairs offering to smoke weed every night, right? And nothing against weed or anything, but if you're doing that consistently, you're going to get results that are consistent with that behavior, right? And so it's like if you're spending time with people that are more or less inspiring you, you're going to be going into a completely different direction.
Totally agree with that. I mean, that's the saying, you're the average of the 5 people you hang out with the most.
It's the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
And it's a hard undertaking to really change your social group. Like not that I'm not discouraging it, but like it's hard. Like, you got to go through that.
You just got to get a one wheel, like Zach and me. Instant social group change.
Nice. I want to look up something real quick. I want to look up, because I'm pretty sure that China manufactures the fentanyl in Mexico. There's something about that. It says Mexico and China are the primary source countries for fentanyl. So it's like people are discussing, we have this big ass debt to China, but they do all this damage to the United States. And then also with COVID, that could have been better contained. And we're pumping all this money into, the economy, which is going to deflate the dollar. That shit has to get paid for somehow. You can't just give money out for free and expect the dollar to hold its value.
Don't get me going on that.
And this other guy was saying, and I agree, it's just like, just say, hey, look, like, we're not paying you back for this many $1 trillion because fuck you. Like, this is what you're costing us. And what are they going to do about it?
Yeah, well, I guess the big fear would be like some sort of war, right? Like having a legit war.
And we're in a new Cold War already. The story of the 20s is going to be a Cold War with China.
Yeah.
Yeah, but go on.
Yeah, so I mean, and so I think part of that is like, nobody wants to press the button. Nobody wants to be the one that presses the button.
But it's mutually assured destruction. So it's just like, hey, we're not going to give you back some of this trillions that we owe you. We'll give you some, but we're not going to give you all because of these reasons. It's like, are they really going to go to war with us over that? I don't think so.
Yeah, it would be, they'd have to get like a different source of a lot of their kind of, money, like, because a lot of their, exports and stuff come to us, right? So anyways, yeah, that's probably, it's just, it's kind of like a symbiotic relationship, but there's just a lot of bad blood there still, which is unfortunate,
Yeah. I mean, I think that, I'm not an economist, but thanks, Zach. I think that one thing that is maybe good for us is like moving a lot of manufacturing back to the United States. People need jobs. Well, let's create some jobs. Maybe products will get a little more expensive, but I think it's okay for products to get a little more expensive in exchange for people having more money here and able to spend that money. And also, if something does go wrong between us and China, our supply chain is obviously garbage. When COVID hit and so many products you couldn't get, like, we need a emergency manufacturing system here that allows us to at least like be able to supply citizens with items that are necessary.
Yeah, it's kind of like a important thing. Yeah, we just kind of realized just now. I was looking at, I'm actually looking at creating something. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but creating something for the one wheel that's basically a adapter type of thing. And I was thinking about getting I was looking into manufacturing and reading about it. And they're basically, all the articles are like, yeah, like not a lot of manufacturing is in the US, like a little bit here and there, but yeah, mostly it's going to be overseas and stuff. And I'm like, man, yeah, that is the case. But now there's all these like 3D printers and stuff. So if you just want to do like a little project or something, you can just go get these 3D printers and print this shit out. That's probably what I'm going to do, right? Realistically.
Yeah. How good are the 3D printers now? I've looked into them before and they're expensive and you can do limited things. I think that there's a lot of room to grow. I see 3D printers that like same thing as VR. It's like, it's taken longer for it to be a useful household product. I mean, VR is now a useful household entertainment device, but
there's different ranges. So like you can get one for $200, but it's not going to be super precise and it's going to use different materials. And then you can get one for like $5,000. And that's like, you're starting to get into some like, manufacturing some decent stuff. It's not just plastic, like nylon anymore.
I think it'd be cool if you were an artist, to have a 3D printer and like make your own art with it and then decorate it and stuff, and like just have your own little Etsy shop like with your 3D printed stuff.
Seriously.
I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And the barrier to entry is is getting lower and lower. So it's at a certain point, you're going to have a lot more people who just have those in general. But it is one of those like kind of creative things. Like somebody wants to go create something, they get that. They don't really get that just for fun as much, you know. Maybe some people are nerdy about it, but yeah, there's different types of people that are going to gravitate towards VR or towards something like that, you know. And you know, the people who gravitated towards VR in the beginning, they made some games and they probably made a lot of money, you know. But a lot of them didn't too. So
yeah,
it kind of depends.
So tell me more about your channel. What are you trying to do with it? What videos do you have out so far?
I have a video on quitting caffeine, which...
Well, let's talk about that one for a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So it's actually doing decent. Like, you know, it's like number 4 on the search results if you type in quit caffeine in Google.
Oh, really? That's nice, dude. But I love caffeine, so fuck you. No,
yeah,
I'm just kidding. Well, tell me why would I quit caffeine?
I'll tell you my experience. Maybe you can relate to it. So for me, you know, I was drinking a lot of coffee at a young age. I ended up, you know, Monster, Energy, Red Bull all throughout high school. And wasn't really a big deal. Like one time when I was like 22, I remember drinking a Red Bull and like working out, and like my legit like my heart felt like I was having like palpitations or something. I had no idea what was happening. And then it kind of subsided, and then I was fine for years. But I started, you know, going out and, you know, going out to the clubs and bars and stuff, you know, as a young guy. And I would be drinking like, and do it, you know, like 4 cups of coffee in the morning. I'd drink like 4 or 5 cups of coffee, and then into the afternoon, and then I would drink like vodka Red Bull or something on the weekend or something, like out at night. And what this did for me was
you drink 4 or 5 cups of coffee in a day?
A day, yeah. Mm-hmm. So this is, you know, mainly, you know, using it too much, right? So if you're doing 1 cup of coffee a day and you can handle it, like, you know, you're not drinking any more than that, then no big deal. Mm-hmm. But basically I kept drinking this, and I had such bad sleep. So I was traveling. So I traveled around the world. I did like 26 countries, you know, about a year and a half.
Wait, just for fun, not for work?
For work. So I was, you know working with a guy and coaching, and, you know, it was pretty cool. But the thing that I realized in traveling was like sleep is so key, because when you go to sleep in a new environment, like half of your brain is basically still on, you know, like you're not completely in deep sleep because you're still cautious about the environment. And so traveling will do that. And so you need more precautions while traveling, trying to get good sleep, than you do anywhere else.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So basically I would travel with trash bags, black trash bags. I'd black out everything. Like everything was black.
I feel like that makes a huge difference. Just the darkness, man.
It really does. Yep.
I find that for whatever reason this year, sunlight wakes me up much easier than it did in the past. Like just a little bit of light, and like if I went to bed a little late and I don't want to get up at sunrise, then I'm up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And so, you know, I'd do that, and then I would have the night mask, and I'd have all the stuff. But I would still get such bad sleep, and I'd wake up exhausted, and I had to work. I was working like 70, 80 hours a week back then. And so
what's wrong with you, man?
I needed some sleep. And so I was like, what am I going to do? And so I started researching this more, and I had this thing called restless leg syndrome. Now this is kind of weird.
RLS.
Yeah. So dude, my toes still have scabs on them because I would like literally
you had it bad.
I would go like this, and the skin they'd bleed when I'd wake up. They'd be bleeding. So,
damn.
And I'm like paddling, like biking while I'm sleeping.
You ever grind your teeth?
Yeah, I did some of that too. So now I don't have that. At least it's not noticeable to me anymore if I do it when I sleep. But the main thing that helped me get rid of that was quitting caffeine.
Really?
Because it heightened the stress response. So there was already a stress stressor there, and then the caffeine basically added to it, and then it also messes up your sleep because basically, you know, it's very hard to fall asleep.
Have you ever tried CBD?
I have, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what did you think about it? Have you ever tried it for sleep?
I haven't tried it specifically for sleep. But I have, I've tried it. It calms me down. I mean, it's pretty good.
Dude, I totally forgot about CBD until Hometown Hero came here, and that's why you see all this stuff.
Oh, okay.
Lucas
nice.
Gilkey, the dude that I've got this. I'm not getting paid for this. I have all the swag that he gave me, and I'm super stoked about it. But like, this is CBD tea, and like I had CBD gummies. I already ate almost all of them.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
Out of
that
them.
Makes sense.
But there's the CBD gummies that have melatonin in them. But what I'm saying is, I had heard about CBD kind of when it started to get some traction, and the girlfriend I had at the time was a heavy pot smoker, and she was trying to smoke less pot. And so she started using some CBD, which she really liked. So I would use it sometimes. But I just kind of, it fell off my radar. I forgot about it.
Mm-hmm.
But after him bringing the CBD stuff, I love the gummies even during the day. Like if I take one in the morning and I drink a cup of coffee, it gets me kind of zoned in. It doesn't make me tired. I used to mix L-theanine with coffee, and I probably will again in the future, but I just kind of, I cycle certain things. It made me feel really zoned in. And then at night I take, I don't take the ones with melatonin every night because I don't think you should take melatonin every night. But he told me that they were really good, and they are good. They put you out. But sometimes I just eat the CBD gummies before bed without the melatonin, and I just get I really do get like a really solid quality sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to get more into like, I don't want to use the gummies all the time because I'm sure they've got sugar in them and stuff, but I also he gave me a drop or two.
Okay, nice.
I'll probably start using the dropper more often for like kind of relaxing during the day a little bit, and then like getting some sleep at night.
Yeah, man, I think that's great. I mean, I think there's a lot of different ways you can kind of calm yourself down and kind of, so for me, I like meditation. I haven't done it a lot recently, but I did a 10-day meditation retreat and stuff. And so you kind of realize like,
you were there for 10 days solid, and you guys meditated like all day?
Yeah, I went with my girlfriend. We did 10 days, no speaking.
That's insane, dude.
Yeah.
I know someone else that did one of these. So how did you feel about it?
I thought it was probably the best experience of my life.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's crazy. I mean, like I had
not talking for 10 days.
It was, yeah, because basically, you go through different stages, right? So you go through the first stage is you're like, dude, why am I here? Why did I do this? This is the worst thing ever. and then you're like, wait a minute, like I can't quiet my mind down.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? That's the whole goal. Why can't I do it? It's not, you have resistance to it. And you're like, I'm a crazy person. I'm like thinking about crazy shit. Like, what the hell am I doing?
How much did you meditate before you did the 10-day retreat? Did you at least gear yourself up to it?
No. Not really.
Yeah.
I mean, a little bit, like an hour here and there, nothing.
An hour's a long time.
Yeah.
Very long time to meditate. I used to meditate frequently for about 3 to 15 minutes.
Okay. Sure.
And for me, that was totally fine. But like, I feel like I just get kind of bored after an hour. Because I mean, like you said, a 15-minute meditation to me is a long one because your mind is going to start, you're always quieting it. It's a constant quieting of it,
Yeah.
And I got to the point where like I would see really cool shit, like really cool visuals of like random like ash falling over. Like it would look like fall, but it looked like volcano ash coming down. Like I would get really crazy cool visuals. Just I would listen to they were like Tibetan gongs or whatever, stuff like that. I would usually listen to sounds. Some people don't listen to any sounds, no input, but I like to listen to the sounds because it makes me like help to not think about anything. I'm just like hearing the sounds, but trying not to like focus too much on them. And then, close your eyes, and then I would start to see like cool shit. Nice. I fell out of meditating. I don't really know why, because I did feel it was very beneficial.
I think it helps your baseline at a certain point, and then you feel good, and you're like, oh, maybe I don't need this as much. And then a year later, you're like, why am I getting in a fight with my girlfriend? And like shit, you're like, fuck, I need to like meditate again. And and so yeah, for me, like, so the speaking, so like you're quieting your mind, it was kind of half of it for me to kind of like be able to go to sleep and get good sleep. Getting kind of ready for that. But the meditation retreat itself, man, there was one time there was a scorpion that was in somebody's shoes, and you can't talk. And so this guy's in the hallway, and I'm going through, he's like trying, we're doing like sign language.
I think I would have made an exception. Scorpion in the shoe.
No, like you're not supposed to kill a mosquito. Like it's like full on like, Buddhist stuff. And, and I was just like, oh, he's like, we're trying to like communicate, like, how do we get it out of here? And like, I'm like pointing at things, and we got like this newspaper or something, and like moved it over, like piece of paper, and moved it over. And yeah, like, and then we like at the last day you can talk. And so we were chatting about it, but yeah, during the entire 9 days, I think it is, you basically realize that you're crazy. And then you start to actually put in like some real work. Like you wake up at about 4:30 in the morning, you're meditating until about 9 at night. And, you get 2 meals, unless you're a veteran, like it's your second time, then you just get like basically 1 meal.
So there's some people mix in some solid fasting with it.
Oh yeah, solid fasting happening as well, and that keeps you alert. And I made the mistake because I ate, because Goenka, I did this one in Dallas, and the guys Goenka, they have this recording of him. He's an Indian dude, great teacher, but he's like, don't eat too much. He's like, leave about a quarter of your belly like empty so that you can be alert. And I'm like, no, thanks, dude. I'm gonna eat a lot of food. And I ate all this food, and then I'm like tired and miserable because I'm like nodding off because of the carbs, you know. And so so from there I didn't do that. But yeah, I got to the point. It was about day 7 or 8 where I like legit had my body, like you're trying to scan your body with Vipassana, okay, and so I had like legit like sensations in my body. Now, you know, I've always been an atheist. I've never been, you know, religious or anything. But like, I'm like, wow, like I didn't know you could get this in tune with your body. I didn't know that this was a possibility.
Kind of doesn't surprise me though. If you sit there and your brain is controlling this entire thing, you know, like unconsciously, you know, you can decide to move your hand, but all the important functions are going on without you thinking about them. So to me, it's not very far a line to draw that like, if I sit around in my head all day, I could focus on a particular, like my finger, and I can like push blood to it. Although you're not thinking I'm pushing blood to it, you're just focusing on it. So your body focuses on it. There's a dude that can control his body temperature and massive ups and downs and through meditation.
It's like Wim Hof or somebody else?
I don't know. It's probably that guy. It's probably like the most famous guy for like.
Yeah, the guy who climbed Everest or something in his boxers, that guy. The breathing technique.
Yeah, it might not be him. Maybe though. It's a guy that like controls his body temperature to a way that like astounds doctors. So like this shouldn't be possible. Without having a physical workout. You know, like you could just.
Okay, I think that's somebody else.
He can sit there and like literally like severely increase his body temperature.
Yeah.
And you know, people say that like they can focus on a finger, a hand, and like they feel the vibrations and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. So you're saying that makes you a little more spiritual? I think that's just like, to me, it's just even more science. It's like, this is a powerful machine, you know, and if you focus so solely on training that machine, it's already controlling all these functions. It's just, you're not aware of them, and you can just become more aware and in control of the things that it already can do. To me, that's not spiritual or magic. It's just, you know.
Yeah. For me, it was more the fact that it's just getting out of your head. So like, you know, your head, you're always like thinking logically and trying to solve problems, basically. Like that's what your mind wants to do, you know? And so you find a problem and you're like, oh, you know, it's like, oh, can't wait to solve this. And with that, it's like, you know, being able to kind of let go and be in tune with literally the vibrations of your body in general. It kind of gives you an experience where you completely forget about certain things being important. Like for instance, like, you know, my girlfriend did it with me, and like her and I, like half of the time we're like, this is really hard. Like we want to, you know, go bone basically. And then we came out of this, and I could understand how a monk could not have sex for 30 years. Like I understood it. I'm like, I get this because I'm so happy with myself and with who I am that I don't even need anything else. I don't need anything extra in my life. Like I could get by with literally just the bare minimum and be at complete bliss. And so that's what I mean by spiritual, is like, it's more of an attitude. It's more of a way of being than it is, you know, thinking that God is controlling my vibe. I don't know what, you know,
that makes perfect sense to me. So it's like, you know, it's a higher appreciation of just the basic human senses and your general existence. It's like, we're in a world where
it's also not senses though. So the one thing that he teaches you is that you shouldn't just concentrate on your senses, because if you concentrate on your sense, then what will happen is you'll have a reaction to that sense. So it's basically at its core, it's non-resistance to life, right? So for instance, when you're scanning your body, you're going to get an itch. There's one time where you can't move for an hour. Every day you can't move for an hour. It's called, I forget what he calls it. It's like strong focus or something.
By the way, how much did this cost?
Nothing. It's free.
Okay. So you just go.
It's donation based.
Dude,
you should do it.
I need to do one.
It's pretty great.
Yeah.
But the point is like, look, it's resistance based. So like if you get an itch, and so it's like, what do you do about the itch? If you're just concentrated on your senses, then you'd say, there's an itch. I want to get rid of that. Why can't I get rid of that itch, right? That's like you're feeling your senses. And so what you do with this practice is you go past that. You go past that to what he calls equanimity. And he says, you don't judge what happens. You let it happen. You're like, this is life doing what it's going to do to you, right? So it's like, I literally had fleas on me for about an hour and didn't move. Like, no joke. I had fleas bumping, because you walk out in the woods and it's like fleas out there. And I'm just like, this is a test. This is like a test for me to not go insane, basically. And so doing that, like, you know, brought me back to equilibrium, where now, then when I got out of the retreat, I didn't even need to, go instantly, have sex with my girlfriend or do anything else. It was like, I didn't need anything. And so I had reduced cravings, like the desire. Like, this is what keeps people poor. This is what keeps people from having like wealth, is desire, right? Like he talks about this in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
Yeah, he's great. But he talks about fear and desire. This is what makes people spend money. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm afraid of this, I'm going to go spend money. I desire this, I'm going to go spend money. And if you can get rid of those two mechanisms, which in its essence is kind of like equanimity, which is what, Goenka's talking about, or Vipassana's around, then you can start to be like, you not need anything. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go spend that money. You don't have to go get that cheeseburger. You don't have to go, ruin, your diet or do anything like that. It's like, no, you can be, kind of be at peace with what is. Mm-hmm. And that helps you for fasting too. Like, if you're fasting and this is kind of your mindset, or this is the way you're looking at the world, then, you can do things that most people would never be able to do. Like the monk who sets himself on fire, right? How does he lives? Well, he doesn't live, but how does he barely move? Like he's sitting there meditating as he's on fire. It's like, how does he not move? It's like equanimity. He's just like,
yeah,
it's insane.
It is a powerful thing, and something like meditation, fasting. I think that's you're touching on one of the great benefits of it that maybe isn't communicated to people that well. Like, people communicate all these more, detailed concepts and all this stuff, but like one just simple thing you can say is like, it helps you with your self-control.
Yeah. Yeah, sure.
It helps, like, and it's almost kind of like a dopamine fasting type concept, It's
dopamine fast.
You just go without food for a little while. It's amazing to me. Like, it is not a big deal. I did a 2-day fast last week, which had been a while since I'd done one that long, but I used to only eat once a day. So a 24-hour fast every day. Like,
yeah,
you're way more focused, dude. Like when your stomach is empty, like, you'll get hungry.
You're in the zone.
But then you just don't care and you forget about it, and the hunger goes away. Yep. And the more you do it, you just don't care. Like, seriously, you are the most like tuned in when you're on little food. And like you said, when you ate that food and you got tired, it's amazing what an effect. This food is like a sedative.
Oh, yeah.
It's like,
oh yeah.
I was on vacation with, the family vacation, and there's home cooked meals all every night, which is great. I love that stuff. But like, that's when I came home and I didn't eat for 2 days, because like I just felt full for 7 days. I was like, I mean, that's my own problem, but
mac and cheese.
That's part of being there, and that experience is just kind of pigging out and eating all that home cooked food.
Yeah.
But I was just like, I just want my stomach to be empty for a while because it's just sedates you.
Yeah, I do that every morning. I don't eat any food until about 2 or 3 p.m. every day, and then I eat like a little bit of food. And yeah, I actually still drink decaf coffee, so I'll do like decaf coffee with MCT oil in the morning, and then that's the replacement for me to be focused. So it's like good night's sleep, wake up, decaf with some MCT, so you have a little bit of energy from the MCT, and then from the fats, and then I just can just go crazy. And it's awesome.
And in that regard, you're right. I probably don't even need coffee. Like, if I drank a decaf coffee in the morning, I probably would hardly even notice the difference. But I'm going to grab another drink real quick, and then I want you to tell me how you got so many views on your caffeine video, and then we'll talk a little bit more about your channel, because we really haven't talked about it that much.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good.
So we're talking about caffeine and all that stuff. So how many views did you get on your caffeine video?
I think it's just under 17K right now.
17K. And how did you, because
a few months ago.
I put this podcast on YouTube since episode like 10. We're on episode like 21 now.
Yep.
I don't get that many views, which is kind of to be expected. You got to cut through the mix. I'm working with people on how we can, improve on that. But how the hell how did you get 17K views already?
Well, I mean, so YouTube is a search engine basically, right? So, I just did the SEO pretty well. I actually think that the reason that so I've done other videos after that haven't gotten that amount of success. They may be like close to 200 views, but not that much. And so I think the reason that one took off more or less, and it was funny because I barely planned that one, and I just like kind of winged a little bit the information and then pieced it together. But I think the reason that one took off a little bit more was because I was sharing like a real struggle that I had with caffeine, and I kind of started off with kind of informing them like, look, these are some of the issues that I see people having with caffeine addiction. And then I went into like, here's some things that I went through, and I like legit had video that somebody took of me passed out at like 2 a.m, and it's my feet doing restless leg syndrome, except it was like kind of funny because I was doing the happy feet dance. Like my feet were just like, I still had my shoes on, and it was in Vegas. I was passed out. My feet are just like this. And he's like, what the fuck is this? so I shared that. And that was like, I think that gave people like, okay, wow. Like if this guy solved that with quitting, like maybe there's something to this. So there's a little bit of, realness and vulnerability to it, which I don't think people share in a lot of videos. They're going to be more or less, trying to make themselves look good.
Yeah.
So I made myself look really bad, and then it took off.
That's cool, man. So what are your plans with the channel? Like, you're just kind of doing it for fun? I mean, you're involved in this business where you're around YouTube creators. You got inspired by them.
Yep.
So you just kind of, you thinking you're going to dabble in it, or you thinking you're going to really try to grow it?
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to try to grow it and keep going with it. It's something I'm passionate about. I come from, like I said, an audiovisual background. And then also, I've done a lot of public speaking and, charisma and stuff. And so I think this is kind of like the perfect combination of where I could use my strengths to give a lot of value to the world with, right now I see that people need this. Like people, were very confused about their life, let's say, and, looking for purpose, are going into groups to find that purpose. Right. And I think that's what people usually do anyways. Like, they're either going to go to a church, or they're going to go to a movement, or they're going to go, find somewhere where they can be useful. And I think the challenge right now with everybody that's not doing as well, let's say, especially during Corona, is that they're not finding ways to be useful. They don't know how to be useful. I mean, Zach and I were talking about this, he's on unemployment. He's like, how do I be useful? Like, this is something that's tearing me apart. Like, how do we fix this? And like, I've been through that as well, where, I've really struggled to figure out, how to do more and kind of, what JP says, take on more responsibility. And, I did that. So I ended up, going out for about, I think it was like 3 years. I went out and just like talked to so many people. I talked to almost 20,000 people. So I went out like almost every night, meeting people and just understanding how to talk to people, and just to level up my social game, to be able to make new friends, be able to,
Were you reading The Game by Neil Strauss?
Yeah, a little bit back in the day. Yeah. And then finally, I kind of ended up like, moving past all that. I got a girlfriend now of 3 years, but dude, I mean, you just learned so much figuring out how to, break past whatever barriers you think you have of yourself. And so for me, that was like, almost like I mentioned to you earlier, like a coming of age ritual, like putting your feet to the fire. It's like, go figure it out, motherfucker.
Do we need more of that? I think I tell my friends, I don't talk about it too much publicly. I think people have no fucking grit now. Everyone's a pussy. And like, they just want to complain and bitch and moan, and it's like, just, I don't know, dude, go do something, change something.
Yeah.
Seriously. And have thicker skin too.
Yeah. Everybody's walking on pins and needles right now. And
people need thicker skin.
Yeah. And so that's pretty much what I'm looking to do with the channel is, expand people's, thoughts on what they can do, what's possible for them, and challenge them to go outside of their comfort zone to do more. And I think by doing that, if more people did that, then they'd realize actually what's important, and they'd stop being worried about little things, and maybe realize how good they have it in some ways, and maybe other things they want to improve that they can take responsibility for and work on. And, there's certain circumstances that are just unfortunate, and it's not like everybody can fix everything about themselves. But on the grand scheme of things, most of the issues that most people have, they're
improvable.
They could improve them over time with a strategy. They could figure out how to get past that.
That's my thing. I feel like I'm really mean to, or like, people that complain about their problems, especially in America. Because it's like, dude, you live in the fucking United States. Like, even if you have a shit situation in the United States, it's still better than a lot of people in other countries. So like, you're way better at doing what you do than me, because I'm just too mean. I'm just like, stop complaining. Do something about it. You know what I mean? I understand that it's more complex than that. People's minds work in different ways, and everyone's a product of their upbringing and their personality and all that stuff. And you can't just like, just because you understand that, like, you can change these things and you can think about things in a different way, as opposed to being a victim. You can become empowered and take action. But the unfortunate situation is that it's like, I need to understand that a lot of people's minds don't work that way. It just doesn't click with them, you know? And so what you're doing is trying to get it to click with more people.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you need to have a fight. You need to have something that you're fighting for, right? And so people are grabbing towards the easy fights. They're grabbing towards the fights that are, you know, easy virtue signaling or easy virtue, right? And the harder fights are the fights with yourself, like figuring out what am I going to do? What am I going to do specifically, not as a part of this thing?
Mm-hmm.
And you gotta basically take account of like what is it that is not going well for me, and what do I want to fix? And the challenge that everybody has right now, the reason they can't find purpose is because they get it too good. Like you can't. This is what was my problem. I had it too good with too many things, and I was like very aimless until I like was struck with like a huge amount of scarcity in, you know, my social life. And I was like, there's just no options for me. There's no progress, and I was like, how do I fix this? And, you know, and then so you go on the journey to figure out just how to communicate better and how to become somebody that you want to be, somebody not that you don't look in the mirror and dislike. And this is something that like you don't have that unless you have some lack. Like you have to have leverage on yourself. And so right now nobody has any leverage on themselves because they're all doing so well. It's the golden handcuffs. Mm-hmm. You know,
golden handcuffs. I mean, you mentioned that earlier, but that's what you're talking about.
This is what I'm talking about. Okay. People got golden handcuffs. My buddy was working at a accounting job for 6 years. He's making over 6 figures. He's doing really well, but it's eating up his soul. He's like, I got to get out of here. I'm like, yeah, man, you got the golden handcuffs. Like you got it too good, and you have no motivation to go past that. So good for him. He quit it, and now he's traveling the world and doing what he wants to do, working from his laptop. But you know, nobody that I see that's doing really well and working on hard problems to solve, you know, is somebody that's like complaining and, you know, and you know, blaming other people. It's like, so how do you get from that to that? It's like, you got to figure out how to surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah.
And you got to be exposed to the right influences. And that's really all it is. It's not, you don't need to go fucking, I'm not telling you got to go fucking buy some big program or anything. You just got to figure out how to get leverage on yourself, and you got to put in the work. And if you're not committed to doing it, then you're not going to get anywhere. You know? But you need the leverage. It's
so
happen.
A lot of that to me is like environment design. So I don't know if you read Atomic Habits.
I haven't. My buddy keeps telling me I got to read it.
So I
read The Power of Habit. That's it.
It's another short, engaging book. Sure. You can plow right through that book, and none of it's like, this is just going over the same thing over and over. No, like it's all good. You can plow right through it. But anyway, and your people that you surround yourself with are your environment. Mm-hmm. The physical objects in your house and stuff are your environment. So it's like, you know, like you saw downstairs, I have a workout thing on the way in and out the door. And so James Clear talks about that that's very visual. It's like it draws you in, you know. And like, so he would put, if he wanted to floss, he would get a bowl of those flossers and put them on his bathroom counter. Yeah. Because the environment is signaling him to floss, because that's what he's trying to do. Like, you want to reduce friction between the things that you don't want to do. Mm-hmm. And so another aspect of environment design is your people are your environment, the people that you hang out with your environment, and they have a huge, massive influence on the way that you think and the way that you feel. So a lot of what we talked about and you mentioned is changing that and being around the right people. And that's hard. It's scary. I get it. You know, like changing your friends and just changing your habits and changing what you do, like your patterns. But that's what your brain, it's just a pattern machine. I mean, you know.
Absolutely. My favorite, relevant to that, my favorite thing to do in high school, by the way, was to make up slang. And so my favorite thing about making up slang was that you could almost tell exactly when people were going to start using it. Because if you just kept saying it enough times, I forget some of the examples, but you just say something really kind of out there, but you just keep saying it, and you just keep saying it, slowly but surely somebody would start to use it, and then somebody else starts to use it, and then you just like invented this whole new word that nobody else had used, and it was usually really ridiculous because I always like to kind of like laugh at that. But this is pretty much the example of that. Is like when you're around people doing stuff, you know, you're going to be like a sponge. You're going to copy those, those patterns that everybody's using, you know? So yeah. And so that happens not only with words, but obviously with, you know, how you're thinking and, you know, what you're doing, and, you know, with the people that you want to surround yourself with, they got to be doing the things that you want to be doing, you know?
Yeah.
And so it's like, why am I here on this podcast? Well, because I want to be surrounded by people who are also, you know, creative and pushing the limits on, you know, what a job is or what you're supposed to be doing. You know? So like, this is exciting for me.
Dude, it's been awesome having you on, by the way.
Yeah, man.
We got to do this again.
Oh yeah.
And it's not quite over yet. We are almost at time. But one thing I want to ask you, and then after that, I'll give you a chance to talk about whatever you want.
Yeah.
You were talking about how, like, you know, we're pumping all this money into the economy, and tell me how you feel about that and what you think about that.
I mean, man, I'm a libertarian at heart.
Me too.
Like, I'm just like, dude, I want, now I don't, that doesn't mean that I think that like everything would be just perfect if it was like just roads and schools, you know, like just the bare minimum. It's basically like, you know, the libertarian wet dream would be like, okay, just like military, it's like, and then just the basics, you know? And like, I think that's fair. It's
minimal government spending. For people that don't know, the libertarian is someone that is kind of a cross between a Republican and a Democrat, and they meet in the middle. So where it's like, we'd be very loose on what you're allowed to do. We wouldn't tell you what to do in your free time. Like if you want to do drugs, you can do drugs, blah, blah, blah.
Socially liberal,
but fiscally conservative, you know? So it's like minimal government, because the idea is that the more money you give the machine, the more money the machine fucking wastes.
Yes.
And like
absolutely.
It's a power machine too. It's like, it's going to consume more and more and more and want more and more and more. And you're not getting efficiency out of that. So that's why it's like privatizing things people are so opposed to. And I feel like it's very trendy now for people to want to be communist or socialist, but frankly, those people are fucking naive. I mean, like,
they gotta go read some history books.
Exactly.
And realize why you don't want to do that.
Exactly.
You know, the Mao will tell them to write down their thoughts twice a day and send it in on a note. You know?
Yeah. I want people to have cheap healthcare. I do. I want people to have cheap all this. But like, if you think about the most expensive things in your fucking life, they're the things that the government runs.
Yes.
Like
healthcare. Even the universities too. Like, you know, that's all.
Yeah, healthcare and education, they're government run. And guess what? They're really fucking expensive, and they suck. What's cheap? The shit that, you know, Amazon and Walmart sell.
Yes.
It's privatized.
Yeah. My buddy had a good phrase for it. He's like, look, I want somebody who's a crackhead to go do all the crack that he wants to do ever. And I don't care. He can do all the drugs that he wants to do, but I don't want to pay for his heart attack, you know? And I'm like, yeah, there's some truth to that, you know, like, you know, people should be free to make their own choices about things. But I don't think that it's, you know, everybody else's responsibility to bear the consequences of those choices, you know?
No. And I could get behind a universal basic income. I could, depending on like how much automation happens. Like I'm flexible depending on like technological advances. You have to technological advances. You have to take into consideration a changing world and what that really means. And I'm always ready to reevaluate the way that I look at things based on the current environment, the current technology. I'm not opposed to it because I mean, I feel like so much stuff will be automated. A lot of people will just be out of work, you know?
Yeah.
But it depends on the details of how you do it, etc. Basically, I'm saying like I'm open to things being different, you know, and trying things and running experiments, even if it be on a county level, you know, like let's see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the challenge with the universal basic income would be the same challenge with unemployment, which is like it's the golden handcuffs. It's like, where's your purpose? What are you doing? And people, when they don't have purpose, they just go make trouble.
Okay, I have a perfect example of this. I know someone who was in need of money, and so they hustled and they got themselves some projects and started making money. And then the government said, oh, by the way, we owe you this amount of money in unemployment back pay. And they gave that person that money. So what did that person do? They started just smoking weed and chilling every day. Whereas before, they're becoming a contributing member of society and helping people with these projects and doing this stuff. It's like, well, now you have no incentive to work. And that's another thing. They're paying so much in unemployment. It's like, of course, the unemployment numbers skyrocketed because you're making more money than you would doing your fucking job that you don't want to do anyway.
There were some people I talked to, they were making like far more money. I was like, man, that's just unfortunate because you're going to have to go back to, it's not going to last forever, you know? And I think that it's like, it's legit. Like sometimes, you know, things, you know, that makes a lot of sense to say like, you know, if we just give people money for this, like it'll kind of like taper off the problem. But obviously the big issue is that everybody's money, and that including that money, it just becomes less valuable the more money you pump into the economy. So it's like you're kind of just making a little bit of a bubble problem. Like it's a Band-Aid on a gushing wound.
I agree with you, but I'm saying I'm interested in exploring universal basic income, but I would want to like economists and like maybe it's on a smaller scale because some people will have a difficult time contributing to the economy. You know, it's like if they just really aren't good candidates to be contributors anyway, and if robots are reducing their candidacy for being good contributors, like some kind of solution has to happen, you know, as things become more automated is my thinking. But I have all the same concerns that you're speaking about, which are all the same concerns that like a libertarian would have, you know?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the automation. I mean, somebody made the argument that it's pretty much very similar to the Industrial Revolution, where there was so many jobs that were just like totally demolished, and we just adapted to it. Like we just found new jobs out of that.
And I can see that.
I think just some of that would happen, but you know, I don't know if we would live in a place where like the robots would do everything. I feel like if that was the case, and we could, you know, and we had more time, hopefully we'd be able to spend our time better. But I feel like even now, like there's so much, we have all of these conveniences, but still now I see everybody working almost even more than they did before, you know.
Well, and it's not an everything problem, but it's like, for one, like I think that paid drivers will be gone within the next 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, and I don't know what percentage of the job market that is, but it's probably pretty big, you know. And then you want to apply that to working in a manufacturing plant. I was saying we need to move the manufacturing here in the United States. Well, you know what? A lot of robots are going to be able to do a lot of that too. So it's like you're going to have these people who, you know, maybe they're 60 years old, maybe they're 30 years old. They have an education, or they don't have an education at all. They can't suddenly be a skilled worker that helps repair these robots. Maybe they can be trained to repair robots, but it's like you're going to have these people that are going to be left out. They don't have a way to contribute, and they don't have a feasible way to become a contributor. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, so what do you do with those people? Do you let them become fucking homeless? Because it's not really their fault. They just fell into this category of like, all right, now we have these machines, and now you're not educated to help with this stuff.
Like a truck driver kind of example.
Yeah, and it's like, no offense to anybody that's a truck driver or whatever, but like if you're 40 years old and you've been a truck driver for 20 years, you know, what do you could go back to school to do what? Like,
I mean, there's a legit challenge. I mean, sometimes we actually talk to people and help people like that at my company, and basically, or not the company I work for, and basically, you know, there is a real thing where when somebody's been ingrained in the same habit or the same process for a long time, like 20, 30 years, you know, you see this with a guy who's a truck driver often, is that it's very tough to get them to change. It's very tough.
That's what I'm saying.
They've made a lot of rationalizations to themselves about why they can't change, and they've told themselves the story about this is just what they're going to be doing. And so now when that isn't available anymore, they are just completely devastated. They don't know what to do. So I think there was that thing going around where it was like teach people to code, like learn to code or something.
Yeah, that got a lot of flack because it is kind of shitty and pompous to go around saying that.
Yes, and I think it is actually legit. Like some of those people, it would just be such a leap for them based on like what they've been doing that I don't think that's a realistic solution.
No, it's
for some
not.
of them could do it. It's not that they couldn't do it, but it's just like when you've been doing something that long, it's tough. So there would have to be some solution to figuring out how to help them. But my idea of helping them would be figuring out what can they do that's useful and how can we pay them for that.
And that makes the most sense, solution. Like the most common sense solution. And I agree with that 100%. It's just that like, is there something that we could find? And maybe there is, maybe there isn't. But being a libertarian, you look at the economy as more like I equate it to like natural selection. And I'm not talking about like people don't matter. I mean, like things evolve to fit something and become useful out of necessity. And when you try to interfere with that in an artificial way, then you're actually causing less efficiency.
Yes.
Whereas if you just kind of let things fall where they may, you are getting to a better result faster out of necessity.
Yeah. I mean, it's like in China, like when they had, basically the government controlled all the food production. They gave them a set price for the food, and that wasn't even enough, barely enough to live on. And then they were stacking it all in the cities, and then it was like some of it was going bad in the cities, and so they had like 20 million people die because they weren't allowed to just sell things on their own. You know, they weren't allowed to just give people what they need and for other people to produce what other people needed, right? To have that exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you put those big blocks in the way of people exchanging value, all it is exchange of value. I mean, really, like money is just an exchange of value. It's like, oh, you have this thing, you have this shirt. I want that shirt. I'm going to pay you for that shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, so like that's all capitalism is, really.
Exactly. That's why I'm tired of people
you have something I like, I'm going to pay you for that.
That's why I'm tired of people shitting on capitalism. It's like, dude, capitalism is what has given you every opportunity you've ever had in your life. You should thank God that if you believe in a God, and I don't, but that you just even live in America and have these privileges. For you to go shitting on capitalism is just being totally fucking naive, in my opinion.
Yeah, the one good thing that happened in China was basically they started opening up these provinces around the coast, right, to do business and make factories and do business with foreign companies. And immediately now they weren't forced to be peasants anymore and work in the fields and get a small amount of money because they weren't able to keep any of their profit. So if somebody grew like way more rice, like all of that went to the government, right? They didn't get to keep any of that. So there's no incentive
to work hard.
Yes. And this is the big issue with that is everybody says, oh, well, they'll just be bought into the cause and work harder. Okay, maybe for like a few months, and then people are lazy and some people are productive. So there's no incentive. So then when they started opening up these provinces and they basically allowed them to, trade and to have businesses and stuff, then everybody flocked to those places. Because why? Because you were now getting paid for
you have opportunity.
Value, you have opportunity. So now people could get a job. Which
is why people move to
and
America.
They could get houses and they could get, so it's like the best thing that happened the funniest thing about the Chinese timeline is that the best thing that I saw from that documentary anyways, which maybe that's partly propaganda. Maybe I'm getting, who knows. But the best thing I could find from that was that the capitalism was the best thing to happen to China. The past 100 years,
I'm sure it is, dude. Look how they're doing, but we're running out of time. Is there anything else you want to say about your channel?
No, I mean, check it out. Yeah, Overpowered Mind. You can search it in Google, in YouTube. And there's going to be some pretty cool stuff coming on there. Just made a really long video, really in depth. So if you liked any of this content, then check that out.
Cool. And I'll link to it in the description of this video.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot for coming on, Peter. This is great. We should do this again sometime.
Let's do it. I'm down.
All right, man.